What is going on, guys? We've got loads of new cards coming to Marvel Snap with the introduction of Pool 4 and 5. And today we've got a special version of the Snap Chat. We're going to be talking about all those cards today. What's going on, Alex? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. Anytime I get to sit down with you and talk Marvel Snap is an amazing time in my books. I can't wait. We have I think this is the best 6 topics we've ever had. I am so excited to have this conversation right now.
Oh, without a doubt. So, guys, if you're new here to the podcast, we're going to be talking about 6 different subjects. On my channel, we'll talk about 3, and on his, we will talk about 3. Over here, guys, on today's video, we're going to talk about ranking all the Pool 5 cards. Excited to talk about most of those. We've got new cards coming to the game every single week. This is something huge to talk about, and it's going to kind of correlate with one of these subjects over on Alex's channel with net decking. And then lastly, it's been confirmed. We're going to have some card adjustments coming our way this coming week. So we're going to do our best to predict which cards are going to get buffed, which ones are going to get nerfed. And quickly, Alex, what are we talking about on your channel?
So because the upcoming Pool 4 or Series 4 is a lot bigger, we're not going to do a full ranking here. Maybe we'll save that for another video. But we're going to talk about the best and worst Pool 4 cards just right off the bat, like our first impressions. Of course, when you play them, things change, but our first impressions we'll give to you. We're also going to talk about net decking with tokens and how that could potentially impact the game. We're going to talk about the collection system and how it's changing and, how we can get ready for it. And then finally, we're going to talk about our most anticipated roadmap update, which is incredible because the team at Second Dinner has done an amazing job of actually delivering. It's only been out a month and they've delivered on so many promises already. So I'm excited for what's coming up and we're going to talk about that as well.
All right, guys. Well, again, the feedback has been incredible for the podcast. Let's jump right on into it. And then lastly, I will say the audio version, we hear ya, will be coming by the next episode, guys. Excited to launch that for those that want to listen to our banter and not look on the video. So we're going to start with the first subject, bud. Loads of new cards. We've got Pool 4 in your channel. Let's talk Pool 5. Now, these are considered the ultra rare cards, which just in the subject alone, Alex, I love it, man. I love that there's a chance for anybody to pull a super rare card, and it makes definitely for more in-game players it more exciting to upgrade your collection, bud. To start off, before we jump into the cards, what are your thoughts and feelings about the rare versus super rare new introduction?
Well, first of all, I think anytime you add to the collection system, I think it's amazing. Because I keep saying this, there's so many different ways you can interact with Marvel Snap. There's the collection side of things where you literally just build a collection, you collect variants, you unlock cards, and then you play the game for funsies, right? And then there's the competitive side, right? And then there's the middle ground where I think most of us actually end up falling. You're a little more on the collection side with all those variants that you keep buying, but it's crazy how you can interact with this game and have a blast in so many unique ways. So I'm all about that. The concern I have though, and one of the ones that is kind of I don't know how to even articulate this, but so Cozy, I'll need your help.
Okay.
Is it possible with the ultra rares? So they have to be so careful that these ultra rares are not ultra good. They almost have to be very niche, because if they're that hard to get, right? It could be a have and have not situation, because the nice thing about Pool 3 is everyone's kind of in the same boat where you're all kind of struggling to build the best decks you can, and that's kind of a benefit. But if you pull a Pool or Series 5 card and it's broken, and the chances of anybody else competing with it is too low, then you have a really, really bad situation where some players will just crush others because they have that Series 5 card, which is so hard to get. So I think the balancing is going to be a major factor. So I'm curious about your thoughts.
Yeah, I have 2 thoughts. First of all, I love that they're going to be interchanging cards from Pool 5 or Series 5 to Pool 4. And I think that's going to be great to keep up for newer players. And we're going to take a look, right? When we rank these in a second, we can kind of talk about how powerful we think they are in the first place. But also, I think what's important is to truly see how the token system works, to see how they cycle. Luckily, it's every 8 hours. So, how rare is it to pull is insane. But how much are they popping up? I do agree. There's at least one card today that I think is game-changing, and how that's going to get introduced, and people are going to have an advantage. But let's talk those power levels. Let's see, are they truly going to be better than everything out there? Hell, Angela is a Pool 1 card and still considered one of the best, right? So we are going to rank them all. And so I think the best way to do this, rather than both of us just saying a random, what our 6th favorite is let's talk about card by card. We have them all here on the website. and kind of where you think he lies. You could say middle of the pack or your favorite card, whatever. You don't have to give me a specific number if you don't want to. But, you know, I want to start out with Galactus. Now, Galactus is truly the only one that we've actually had access to its full extent. Like, Thanos is out there, but you don't get the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
So we know how he plays already. What are your thoughts on Galactus?
So Galactus is one of those cards I think is perfect for Series 5 or Pool 5. I'm gonna have a really hard time with this, by the way.
Well, okay. Yeah,
Series versus Pool. I saw your YouTube community poll.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw the results on the
laughing.
screen right now for the viewers. Guys, 76% said they like Pool still. It's like Baby Yoda and Grogu. Okay, it's Grogu, bud, but no one calls it Grogu. I don't know. It'll be tough to
Baby
switch
Yoda.
over. It'll be switched.
Yeah, I know, you're right.
It'll be tough. But
So the thing I love about Galactus is that, like, it's an incredible effect and with an amazing animation that is absolutely jaw-dropping when it lands, but it's not an overpowered card. If anything, if this is like a mainstay in your deck, you are like you're playing a dangerous game, because Galactus is so easy to just throw a game with. He's a 3-power 6, right? And like, I'm sure like we'll figure out additional strategies, but like, he's not a broken card. But when you land that Galactus play, it's like highlight reel material.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I have him ranked number 4 on my list of the possible 6. But I'll say he's not a broken card. What concerns me is the combos, though. Because here's the deal. In Mr. Negative deck, with Galactus in there, combined with the possibility of another Pool 5 card that we're going to talk about that I think is busted, you're gonna have the option that if your opponent's not ready, there's no way they're going to be able to match the power that you pump out on one location. So I think it's going to be interesting. I also think that like Green Goblin is going to be ran a lot more, because you have to put, or Debris, like you have to try to put cards on their side to not let them use Galactus, because you can't go all in on Galactus because there's ways to counter it. He's going to be interesting, man. I do agree. I think he's done right. But there's some stuff we'll talk about here in a moment that I think could break some combos altogether. But what do you have him ranked out of the 6, Alex?
I mean, it's hard for me to say. I would put him on the bottom half, like
Okay.
maybe a 5. Like, I love the effect, but in terms of like pure meta-defining power, I don't think that's what he is. You're right. The Mr. Negative combination could be absolutely insane, right? And you could try and like really do things with like Electro and Psylocke and stuff. Like, you could try and cheat him out. I mean, wave. Right, you could wave him, you could Jubilee him, but then if you Jubilee him, like, he's not the only card there, so the combo's ruined, right?
Right.
So like, it's a super interesting card. I don't think it's game breaking though, but I think it's an amazing design.
Yep, 100%. So I have that 4th, and if that card's 4th, that's where things are getting crazy, right? So we go on to Valkrie. Now, this is fun. First of all, card art, 10 out of 10, dude. 10 out of 10.
Rainbow Road.
Yeah. Come on, it's a Bifrost. Yeah, it does look.
I know. I said that in one of my videos. I'm like, hey, look, she's standing on Rainbow Road. I wonder if she's in Mario Kart. The comment section was not kind.
Yeah, don't mess with Marvel fans, man. They'll take it down. But yeah, I love her as a character in Marvel too. So what she's gonna do is on reveal, set all cards at the location to 3 power. Start out with your ranking. Where do you have her?
I mean, I think this Princess Peach looking lady here is pretty much like, I think it's top 2. I think it's incredible. Like, it's begging for Cerebro synergy. It's so good. I think it's awesome. I think this is like top tier.
I've got her at 2.
I like it.
I've got her at 2.
Yeah, look at that.
Yep, for sure, dude. Without question, I've got her in the top 2. And is actually the one that I'm gonna like. If I see her, man, I'm unlocking it. Like, no question.
100%, me too.
100%. So I like what you said about Cerebro. I also think with her that the interaction and the thing that people aren't thinking about, and why I have her so, highly ranked, is that she's a tech card too, in a way, man. You can just completely nullify in a complete location. You can magic, and if a destroyer comes out, hey, cool, bro, just gonna throw Valkyrie and take us both to 3. That's where I think her true power potential is gonna lie. She'll be a nice complement to like Silver Surfer and like you said, Cerebro. But dude, I think that this is where things are gonna get nuts, is using her as a counter all the time. I mean, all the time. And as a 5-cost, man, that's what scares me.
I gotta give you credit, man. I didn't even think of it from a tech perspective. You're right. Like, I had not considered that. I was thinking about her from like a very much like offensive like capacity, You nailed it. You're right. Like if they wave someone out like a Magneto or something, you're just like, okay, well now this card's useless. Like that's incredible.
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
I truly think she's gonna be a staple. And it just with Magic especially, right? Like
Yeah, and even like aggro decks too. Like if you're playing a ton of one costs, like suddenly those one costs, like if you trade someone with like an Electra, you pop up the Electra to a 3 now.
It's exactly, or you can like completely get rid of Killmonger counters, right? You just change them all, and yeah. So I'm extremely excited for her. Might be my first unlock. I think she's gonna work in the most amount of decks, so that's why I have her at 2, maybe 1. Awesome. Let's go to Super Skrull, man. We're just going through all the top end ones here. Wow. When I read this ability, I was like, rest in peace. A couple of decks. Where do you have this guy?
I'm so unsure. I have him at 1 and at 6 at the same time, and I don't know what to do because it's like I feel like Super Skrull can be used to grief you so effectively. Like if I see Super Skrull out there and it becomes meta, but that's the thing. Like you can't really rely on your opponent having a ultra rare card. So like you can't like play your
thing.
You
You'll
like,
never know. You'll never know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It'll always be a surprise when it comes out on the board, right? So like you can't be like, I'm gonna put Prof X in just to mess them up, right? Like you can't do that.
With
You
Typhoid
can't reliably know unless there's a location that like I can't remember what the planet they're from. Their planet got destroyed. Anyways, I'm not going to embarrass myself with the lore any more than I already have.
Just stick with Mario Kart, dude. Just stick with Mario Kart.
But yeah, like what do you think? Like for me, like I'm having so much difficulty placing this card.
So here's the thing. This is why I want to talk about you hit the nail on the head as far as like the fact that you don't know if people have these cards in their deck is what makes this so. And I think him specifically, right? Like people will look at him and they're like, all right, RIP Patriot, RIP whatever. No, because he's not going to be super common. But then you can't run like Typhoid, right? Like to just like screw him up. I think
you can.
Like 0 decks might get a bit better because of him, because you can just keep running that and you have an effective counter. 4 cost, dude, is what blows me away. I mean, if you take this is gonna there's so many ongoing effects that are very powerful, as you know. So I'm even like as a standalone card. So I'm pretty excited to see like even if you combine like Claw and you combine like just. You don't even have to think about the super overpowered ones. That's what gets me excited about him as a 4-cost option. But I have him at 3. I have him as the third. As the third best.
I lean towards him being like 5.
Okay.
The reason why, because I think you're right. He's a 4/2, and like he is super low tempo, and you can't build around him really. Like you have him, he's basically a tech card, right? So, but the thing is like if it was the other way around, where he has all the ongoing effects of your cards, best card in the game.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
because you can build the deck around. But obviously, that's just wishful thinking at this point.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna be exciting. There's so many ongoing cards that I think are extremely. What he's gonna do is he's gonna solve a lot of the power that ongoing has as well. So we'll see what happens there. Excited about that.
Yeah. But this is like good design because like again, it's not broken. It's a super unique, cool effect that fits an ultra rare, mythic rare card.
Oh, for sure.
Like that's what I mean though. I think this is a good design. Like it does not break the game. It's not like an objectively broken better card.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting card.
100% agree. And like think about throwing like Electro and just forcing your opponent to only have 1 card. You get the energy and they have to. Yeah, I think there's some fun counters to him too. Cool. That brings us to what I think is the best card, without question. I think Shuri's the number 1. I mean, this isn't even a question. I'm a little nervous about her. Now, there's Cosmo, but like, I'm sorry, like people threw out the word Cosmo too much. Like, dude, you can work around Cosmo. On reveal, double the power of your next card. First of all, going back to Mr. Negative, this is the card I wanted to bring up for Galactus. I think she could completely change the game there. But also, dude, just combine with literally half the possibilities of some of the more powerful guys. I just want you to think about Shuri's lab and think about the fun, crazy combinations you get there. But then you can just build every deck like it's a featured location, dude. What are your thoughts on her?
I really like it because I think it's overpowered. I think it'll probably get nerfed. Like in my head, I think, okay, you play Shuri and then you just play like Prof X somewhere else. He comes down as a 6.
Yep.
Like,
well, that's
hard
like
to deal with.
boiled down to the simplest level, right? And even that's like
that's
done.
hard to deal with, right? So like it doesn't. In my head, when I look at this card, I'm like, a way to mitigate this is to give it the Hawkeye rescue effect, where you got to play it in the same lane.
Ooh,
so at least your opponent could like deal with it or expect like, okay, they're doing the combo. They're doing the combo. I'm going to play here because that's where they're going to be. And if they Prof X, I'm going to cover it with whatever, right? But like the fact it can go any location because it's just a straight up on reveal I think this card's absolutely, it's not even broken. It's shattered. It's going to shatter the meta. And this is going to be the one that people unlock and then people get pissed off on. They're going to make Reddit posts. I just got stomped by Shuri. System's not fair. And then like, this is going to be the one that gets nerfed fastest. This is number one without question.
This one is tough, dude. Like Venom. Yeah. And then the thing is, she works in like legit any deck, right? She's going to work with Venom. So destroy decks, you know, obviously. On reveal, just like continue to have a heyday. Now we're going to talk about buffs and nerfs. And so I think, you know, on reveal might get a step down. I'll talk about that in a moment. But dude, it's going to be pretty nuts to see how this works out with her, especially. And maybe they fix her pretty quickly, right? Maybe it's not out there for too long. But we both have her at number 1. No question, guys. If you see her first, I would unlock her because she works with what you have. All right, dude, we've got Bast. Mr. Bast. Where do you have him ranked?
This one, again, like, it's funny because I don't have like set hard ranks. I just kind of know where they fall. This is like middle of the pack where like my deck building mind is still working around it. Like this is like one of those situations where like in my head, I'm like, I don't want to discount how good this card is because I feel like I haven't figured it out yet. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. I think for a 1 cost is what makes him so crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think he's going to at all be bad. I mean, because he's a 1 cost, I think when they data mined him, he was a 2 cost. And like, that was like, that's like, you know, more situational. The fact that this just bumps up your value to like all of your cards that are 1 cost, number 1, right? So the 1 cost meta might go down. But also in addition to that, just like changing Mr. Negative and things that were cons are now up to 3. I don't know, man. I think you can make some pretty sick decks, and then obviously like Cerebro, you know, whatever the obvious synergies.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in some way, like in my head, I see like a zoo card. I see a card that essentially allows you to run lots of 1-drops. And then their power gets all set to 3. You get some additional value. They still get impacted by Khazar, Blue Marvel, Onslaught type combos. They still get countered by the Killmonger because they're still 1 cost. They're just powered to 3. I don't quite know, and I hate to admit this, but I don't quite know the deck building landscape of this card yet. It's the one that I read that I'm like, because what do you go fully in on something like a zoo deck with something like this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to understand the deck building landscape of it, and I haven't quite got the answer yet.
I think he works into a lot more decks that meet CI though too. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think like the hood, bro. Like, God, you're taking a -2 up to a 3 power card, man, and you get the demon. He seems, again, 1 cost is nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you're right, though. I think he's going to be one of the more fun options to especially make some creative decks around. Super hyped up on him.
But there might be times, too, where, like, you have Bast in your hand and you're like, I can't play him because it's going to mess up my Magneto arm. It's going to mess up my whatever else you're holding in your hand based on the draw. If you draw your 6, so, like, Chavez will probably have to be a must here because or else if you ruin your 6 because you set your Hulk to 3, like, it just feels terrible.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah.
But, like, obviously cards like Mystique who are 0. Right, like that's like there's so many cards like Ironheart. There's so many cards that like are so like their energy level is not proportional to their power level. Like their actual power is so weak because their effect is so strong. Like a Mystique.
Their power
suddenly you make a Mystique a 3.
Right, 100%.
Like, that's a good card.
100%, man. I was talking about Patriot today on a video, and like, I don't care if Patriot was 0. I mean, you get what you need. Like, you know, like the 1 cost is just a little bonus. So he'll be fun. And then we end on Thanos, which I think we can all agree is the most hyped, you know, like it's freaking. Yeah. It's Thanos, man. Thanos is my favorite villain, man, of all time. I love him. Now, I think a lot of people are instantly discounting him because of the Infinity Stones, and we don't have good draw mechanics at the moment. Dude, I don't know. I think there's going to be some fun to be made around him. I think at the moment he presents himself as the weakest per se, or you know, the bottom of the more rare cards. But the stones, man.
Yeah, the stones.
Have you seen these abilities? They're insane. Like the Mind Stone is draw 2 stones. So there you go. Like, you know, it's going to be a bit more RNG for sure. But dude, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. What are your thoughts on Thanos?
Again, it's a card that on the surface doesn't look like it's broken, but I could be wrong. This is like, there's no way to make an accurate assessment without playing this, right? Like, there's no way without playing it do you make an accurate assessment. Of course, you dilute your deck with the stones, right? But the stones themselves have the draw-based mechanic. Every one of them draws a card. Then you have, of course, the Mind Stone that draws the stones. Remember, it's only a 6-turn game, right? It's a 6-turn game. So, like, this is a lot going on in 6 turns, 3 minutes. So it'll be, I don't know. He's either number 1 or number 6, and nowhere in between.
Yeah, so I think Adam Warlock is going to start having a bit more play too, like because you have to, right? And then also one of the pool 4 cards that I think everyone's just discounting as the weakest, which it is. And we'll talk about that on your video. But I'll say Maria Ill is going to be can pull a random 1 cost from your hand, so that might work too. So we might see more introductions into Thanos, but by far, man, screw it. I'm gonna make a deck work with him. I'm gonna run it. I don't care if it doesn't, work top level of play. Well, dude, that was a ton of time spent, but I loved it, man. I think these cards provide so much fun to the game. We're gonna have to see, and guys, don't be surprised if their power gets adjusted, but they're gonna have to be careful, dude, because if everybody goes out and gets Shuri, and then they adjust her and she's not as good, then you just spend a ton of collector tokens.
Yeah, people are gonna get pissed off.
That's a tough thing to do, in my opinion. Tough thing to do. All right, dude. So let's also talk about the fact, and there's a lot of things left unsaid on the announcement video of all this, is there has now been confirmation that we're gonna be getting brand new cards every single week. So 1 card is gonna be from the season pass, and the other 3 are gonna be brand new to the game. And I know we're gonna talk about net decking on yours. But man, what are your first just inkling thoughts? Comment down below, like instant thought, guys. What are your thoughts there about that? I'm excited, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I think it's amazing. I just hope, like, for me, I hope this game has like at least a 10-year life cycle.
Of course, yeah.
Do they have that many cards? Can they do it? Does the Marvel universe dig that deep? Or, I don't know the design element of it, right? I'm not a game designer. I just play video games for funsies. But like, I'm concerned that is that sustainable? Is it? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think the pro to not having, because here's the thing, right? They couldn't do like what Hearthstone does with like big drops of just like billions of cards, whatever, right? The thing I like about it is they can adjust cards a lot easier because there's only 1 at a time. All right, so you're not having to like drop all these cards and nerf a bunch and buff a bunch. You just like, there's a new card. There's a new card. First of all, the Marvel universe has plenty behind it, dude. There's like, it's so massive. Yeah. Hell, they can just drop non-ability cards, man, for Patriot decks. Like, there's a lot that they can add. It doesn't always have to be so sexy. I think that the way the game is made and designed to be more free-to-play friendly, I think this is the answer to it. We'll talk about it on yours, but I think by far the most exciting thing is with this introduction, it's going to be impossible to have every single card in the game, and I think that's a good thing in a sense. And we'll talk about that on yours. And who you get in the token shop, that's going to matter. It's going to matter massively. And hopefully, like right now, I give them props. I think the meta, there's going to be some things we talk about on the next topic, but I think it's in a good place for the most part. I think there's not one archetype that's, dominant by any, it destroys a little popular. But I think if they can make all of them, sexy and appealing, I don't know, dude. I'm pretty excited. You have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I think that first of all, having the meta adjust every single week is great. And I think that, like, I've said this before, I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but one of the things that really strikes me amazing about Marvel Snap is that Ben Brode and the team at Second Dinner clearly learned lessons from prior games. Mm-hmm. Like, they clearly learned lessons from Hearthstone and stuff like that, which, listen, I was a huge Dota 2 player. I played Artifact. That game learned no lessons, okay? So it's great to see a development team come in and say, listen, we know that model that Hearthstone utilized was not sustainable for us. Moreover, when we dropped those hundreds or 250 cards, whatever, all at once, yes, there was hype for the first 3 days, but then like 240 of the cards were dismissed as low-tier garbage, and everyone focused on crafting the top 10 cards that were meta relevant. And like all that work and all that meta space went just kind of like unutilized. When you release 1 card a week, you damn well know that everyone's going to have their eye on that card. And when they get it, like, oh, another thing, like, do they make it like featured in the shop so you could buy it when it's first released, or is it just added to a pool? Like, we don't know that. But like, that like people are going to try that card. People are going to try and see how they can utilize that card. Every card's going to get a fair chance because it has its moment in the spotlight.
Look at Black Panther. Black Panther came out, dude, and now Wong revealed decks are top of the list. I mean, like, Arnim Zola Wong is a tough power combo. So I agree. I think that each card gets its shining moment. They're not all written off as garbage or, whatever. Sure, every card that comes out isn't going to be earth-shattering, right? Like, there's no way they can keep that consistency up. But I think it's just such a fresh take. Now, what's crazy to me is if you add the featured locations, the new cars, dude, the meta's just going to be all over the place. Like, it's just going to be nuts, you know? So we'll have to see how they handle that. You know, I know that
It's funny you mentioned that because, like, I actually don't like the featured locations. I know that's crazy to say. I know a lot of people like them, but, like, I feel like those 2 days, I'm like, oh, man.
Make it 24
like,
hours.
I just want to play Marvel Snap. You know what I mean? And I feel like some of these locations are too impactful.
I just hate them for filming, dude. I hate them for filming like deck guides that aren't about like I'll do example battles and I'm like, cool, you know, Warrior falls for the 9th time. Like I'm losing my head. But yeah, I think there's gonna be some adjustment there. I do. And the last thing I want to talk about with the cards, guys, that I tried to talk about in my update video that I think it's huge. The fact that the season pass's main draw was the new card, and now that goes straight to Series 5 after it's over, and you have at least a shot as a free-to-play player to grab the card. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's surprising, and I'll say that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, I don't know. At the end of the day, like, I think that, I keep saying this, the team at Second Dinner clearly learned lessons from other games. Whatever their plan is, they clearly know it must be sustainable despite what I said prior in my concern. And they must have huge plans for us because they have delivered every single promise. They've knocked everything out of the park in my books. And I don't think this is going to be any different.
Yep.
I really don't. And I think they're going to strike the right balance between, like, you know, kind of like revenue and free-to-play fairness because they've tried to do that and they've listened to communities. We've seen that. We've seen that they've been very responsive. So how they execute on this, I'm still not sure, but I'm sure it's going to be well executed.
Yes, sir. Well, dude, let's take that and let's move to the last subject, and that is card nerfs and card buff predictions. Now, I'm not even going to try to be like, this is what they should do to it. Alex, like, good God, I slow clap for just the card designers behind competitive play. It's tough. Like, even a little adjustment in a 6-turn game, a small 1 power, 1 cost can affect a card massively. So I don't, you know, I'll talk about it a little bit, what they might do. But let's talk about the cards this coming week that I think are going to get adjusted. We're going to get our first, this is the longest it's actually gone when we played in beta without any adjustments. And I think that's kind of shocking, but also I'm glad they let the meta kind of settle in. It's not in a terrible place, but there's some cards that are obvious built around more than others. So I'm going to talk about the first one. I think this one's pretty obvious to everybody, guys. We've got Sarah. Now, again, not adjusting exactly. This is one specifically that I'm not going to go into of like how I think they should adjust it. I think the other ones I'll talk about, I've got a clear-cut answer. Do you think Sarah needs minor adjustments?
You know what? This is going to be a hot take.
That's okay.
I actually don't think Sarah's as broken as people think they are. I think that it's one of those situations where when negative got nerfed, it kind of took wind out of Sarah. But it's still a 5-cost card, right? So I don't want to pretend to be a game designer, but like it's one of those cards that, like, yes, it's incredible, but at the same time, it's a 5-cost 5 that doesn't have an immediate impact on the board. It impacts turn 6 and 7. And if you consider the Magic nerf, which forces you to play Magic on 5, I think that also took wind out of Sarah. So I often find myself in a situation where I'm like, Sarah's an amazing card, but building around her in terms of a deck to really maximize her can feel trickier than I think people give it credit for. And there are some amazing miracle deck lists out there, but I don't know. Do you really think she needs to get nerfed?
I like that you have a counterpoint to it. I think she's gonna be a problem for down the line too. That's where I think the adjustment might happen. I say in my Sarah Miracle deck guide, if you guys have watched that the Sarah Miracle deck at its core is not a deck that you can look up a picture of it and put it in your game and be like, all right, I'm going to stomp with this. Dude, it takes turn-by-turn math calculation. Like, it's a tough deck to run, so I respect Sarah in that regard. Maybe a power adjustment. I've seen people want her to have the minimum cost go to 2. That's stupid, in my opinion. That defeats some of the purpose. I think minimum 1 is fine. I think it might just be a power adjustment of like her overall. That's what they're going to do, and that's honestly what I'm going to say with some of the cards we talk about. That's the easiest fix. A 5/5. That way, if you do run her, you're getting that effect like we just talked about with Mystique, Ironheart. Where they take the 5/5, that's where I'm going to kind of be curious. That's the adjustment that I would be looking for myself. I've got other cards, but do you have one that off the top of your head? I'm going to talk about the buffs, by the way. I want you to talk about the nerfs. Vice versa. I'm going to talk about the nerfs. I want you to talk about the buffs. What's your first card that you think should get buffed?
All right, so there's a card that is synonymous with the X-Men.
Okay.
And as I say that, you probably know exactly what I'm going to talk about.
Let me
it's
find
Cyclops.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why Cyclops has been done so dirty? You can't even find him. You don't even remember what he looks like because you haven't played him in a deck. Like, he's so terrible, Cozy. Like, you're struggling because you're like, I don't even know what Cyclops looks like.
I'm struggling. Yeah, dude. I think Cyclops. I think I did a poll on like what card do you want buffed the most. Funny enough, I did a Patriot deck guide today, and I had a whole thing about Cyclops. I mean, yeah, dude. It just feels wrong. Like I feel like I said it in my video. I feel like they were like, all right, team. You know, what are we gonna do for Cyclops? And they were like, oh, dude, we spent too much time on his animation. Just screw it. Just throw him the no ability. Yeah, dude, Cyclops, what would you do? Would you give him an ability? Would you make him strong?
That's the crazy thing about it. I've thought a lot about this. The simple solution of making him a 3/5, I think, is not good. I think that might be too strong.
No, people won't get excited. Like, people are going to want him to do something, I feel like.
I think he needs an ability, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I've seen stuff
like wouldn't it be cool if he brought in another, like, if he brought in like another card with him? Is look at the tagline, let's move X-Men. What if he brought in another X-Men?
Yeah, move to the
like
garbage
a Jubilee,
right
except
now.
a specific card.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think like we don't have any cards that could destroy an enemy card, but you'd have to figure that out on cost-wise or something. Like, I don't know. I think that's a cool idea that he could do as well. I would say that to appease the public, they've got to give him an ability. What that is, let us know what you think down below. But I agree, he's near the top of the buff list.
Yeah, something's wrong with Cyclops. It just doesn't feel right, does it?
Yes. So here's my other thing, and we're going to talk about this on when it comes to your video, and I don't think it's going to be much of a surprise, but I think currently cards that get their costs reduced in ways that aren't cards that can get their cards reduced, right? You have Death that is through Destroy. She-Hulk, we're going to talk about, is just going to be incredible as well. The only issue that I see down the line is the interaction with Wave. Bayro, or the Destroy deck that's considered one of the best decks in the game right now, is because of the limiting play and what you get to do with Death. So I don't know if they're going to adjust Death and She-Hulk. I think maybe these kind of cards maybe can't get their costs, reduced. I think they might touch Wave and Death in some way. I don't want them to. I love those cards. I think that might Wave more of like ability specific adjustments in Death. Do you think that's needed? I'm curious.
I think Wave's effect is way too unique. That I think that nerfing Wave nerfs like an entire archetype and takes a lot out of the game.
I don't mean nerf her. I mean like you're more of like putting like the Death cards that can get their cards reduced cannot be put to 0 cost or whatever. I mean that's what the issue is. I
see what you mean. Sorry, you're talking about the combination of Death and Wave, like
Death and Wave or She-Hulk and Wave. It's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, so like you're suggesting maybe there's like a minimum cost on someone like Death.
On cards that can get their cards, yeah. On cards that can get their energy reduced.
Yeah, I misunderstood at first.
That's
yeah,
okay.
I can totally see that. Because that was a super oppressive it is a super oppressive combination.
It's used
like
in the top
fact you
decks.
can wave and just throw a card that's like a 12 for free, like yeah.
Well, and then like the biggest thing is like the reason that deck's so popular is playing Wave on turn 5 and then playing Arrow to disrupt and then playing a free cost Death when they can't play anything. Dude, that's insane. That's like that's a meta you can't change really. And so that's where I think the adjustment's gonna come in. Dude, by the way, look what I pulled yesterday. Finally.
Ooh, I love the inks.
Oh,
I love them. And I have a Nightcrawler one. I refuse to upgrade it because like I'm scared. I want to be able to pick borders. Okay, I'm gonna hit you with one. I had a couple, but the one that really I think is gonna get buffed is gonna be Rhino.
Dude, I'm so good with that. I am so okay with that, and I
think Rhino's a 3/4 with the same effect.
So okay. Tell me if this would be broken, but I saw this. I've seen this. I saw it on Reddit.
He's a 3/3. Again, a card you never play ever.
Look at this gray ass border, dude. Like, yeah. So this is what I think they could do with Rhino, is that on reveal ruin this location. What if he has the Galactus world ship effect and he destroys the location, but he's not a 3 cost. But what if he could destroy a location? What about that? And they
does he stay on it, or does he like die with it?
No, yeah, he would die with it. The location's gone, right? So like he just take, and they would have to affect cost or power. But dude, wouldn't that be like, that's Rhino, man? That's Rhino to its core.
Yeah.
I saw it on Reddit. I was like, that's a good idea.
I like that idea. It's pretty interesting. That is like, That would be soul shattering for the other player though. Like it would have to be like a 6-drop or something.
Or like Ebony
so,
Maw by like
that's broken. That is like super broken, Cozy.
Or like, well, no, like they could do Ebony Maw effect by turn 3. I don't know, but yes, I do agree that it was a fun idea because Rhino destroys, right? You know, he's iconic, man. Green Goblin's great. Rhino's terrible.
Yeah, I like how like we tend to talk about like cards and like the designs for them that are so fun. But we always see them from the perspective of us playing the card, not having the card played against us and be like, what is this garbage? Like who the hell designed this game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That is fair. I'd be interested to see what they do with them. But that is going to be it for today. We had a longer episode. We've been asked to do longer ones, so hopefully you guys enjoyed them. And again, guys, we're going to be talking about the other 3 topics over on Alex. Alex, thanks for joining, buddy. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure every time.
Big week ahead, man. Big week ahead. Next week's is going to be fun, too. Next week's podcast. All right, dude.
It's going to be amazing.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. And until next time, as always, happy snapping.